Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Aliana Kernodle. Today we're talking about the U.S. Steel merger with Japanese-based Nippon Steel and what Senator Kim Ward had to do with that process. Joining me to tell us more about this is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor, Kristen Smith. So you got an exclusive with Senator Kim Ward, who has been a big supporter of this deal. Can you tell us about it?
Kim Ward's district is actually in Southwest PA. Her family was very much in the steel industry. Her father worked in it in the 70s and 80s and lost his job in the downturn of the industry at that time. So she knows firsthand how devastating losing a company like U.S. Steel would be to the region, to the state's culture, to the people that she represents most of all. And what I found the most interesting about this story with Kim Ward is that I also talked to the mayor of West Mifflin, which is one of the cities that are impacted by U.S. Steel and Nippon investing and having this partnership. And he's actually never met Kim Ward, but he said that he was so incredibly grateful to her advocacy. She was the only state lawmaker behind the scenes that was pushing for this when no one else would. And he made the joke to me that he would like to have a Kim Ward Day and throw a parade for her because without her, he doesn't think that this would happen. And one of the things that she said about why she fought so hard for thousands of workers that she's never even met is because of the legacy of Pennsylvania and because she knew it's her job as a lawmaker to protect Pennsylvania's economy, to grow it. And the idea that we could lose U.S. Steel to, they were talking about moving their headquarters from Pittsburgh to down in Arkansas or somewhere in the South. And to imagine Pennsylvania without U.S. Steel, I don't think I have to go very far for anyone who lives here to understand the impact of that. Their football team is named the Steelers. So it would just be such an ideological blow to the region, as well as there were companies on the domestic side, like Ohio-based Cleveland Cliffs, who wanted to buy U.S. Steel for half the price. And so then we would just lose the company to them. So Kim Ward really fought for what she thought was the best deal. Now, I think there was a lot of hesitance, even from the mayor in West Mifflin, who said, Nippon's based in Japan, U.S. Steel needs to be a domestically owned company. What if they just want to break up the union? There was all of these concerns that a lot of people at first shared, but the West Mifflin mayor, Chris Kelly, said that went away when he actually went to visit other Nippon factories in West Virginia and in other states in the country. He said that the people in those regions said that without Nippon, they would have nothing. And so that's when the tide was turned for him. And that's where Kim Ward's messaging really came in, because she too understood that in a way that was getting lost in the reporting or in the entire discussion about it, really.
And throughout this whole process, early on, even Trump had been opposed to this deal, but Ward continued to kind of support it throughout that. What was kind of her take on that experience?
She was hopeful. She felt, not only did she know that Trump could make this happen, but she believed that he would make the deal better. And I think there's a lot of argument that he did. He got Nippon to increase their investment in steel mills that are not only in Pennsylvania, but in Indiana as well. Workers are getting a $5,000 bonus. We have something that's called the golden share, which means the U.S. maintains majority ownership, although Nippon is investing. So that means that we make a majority of the decisions, like we have the deciding vote in a lot of things. So that really, in effect, keeps it U.S. controlled. And he felt that with all of those qualifications met, that this was the best path forward. What's important to know about Nippon is that they have the money, they can invest in the steel mills, upgrade them, and make them more compliant with climate action goals and other things that have been hurting the steel industry for decades. U.S. Steel tried themselves to update their facilities to do this a few years ago, but local officials in the county, they drug their feet. They denied permits because they were worried about the environmental impact. And that is exactly why U.S. Steel built a new facility down in Arkansas instead of expanding in Pennsylvania itself. So Kim Ward said at the time, she's like, I really don't want to see this happen again. So even though we got this success and Trump, made this deal and things are going forward, now Pennsylvania has to make sure that they don't stand in their own way, that the regulations don't make permits take over a year, and don't really slow down this process so that the entire point of the deal is defeated.
But you did also mention there is some kind of criticism, suspicion around the deal, especially there's been some concerns about the timeline of the partnership and what that will look like. Can you get into that a little?
United Steelworkers Union continues to be opposed to this deal. They don't think that whatever is, what Trump has made happen is really any different than what the company was proposing back in December of 2023. Their entire argument has been is that Nippon is going to find a way to wiggle out of its agreements in Pennsylvania so that they can relocate south because there aren't collective bargaining agreements there. And this is something that, like I said before, concerned a lot of union workers in the state. But over time, and looking at the writing on the wall, that tide has changed. But as far as the leadership of the union, their mind has not changed. One of the things that they pointed to as being suspicious is that there is a 14-month timeline for these investments in these steel mills. And they said that just so happens to align with the end of their current collective bargaining contract. So they're concerned that that's where the wiggle room is for Nippon to potentially back out. I'm not an expert in collective bargaining agreements, but there was a time that the union was arguing that the contract that Nippon was proposing would give them leverage to leave the state in the event of a work stoppage or a strike. My sources that I've talked to said that that's kind of disingenuous and not entirely true. But like I said, not an expert in this, so I can't go too deep into the weeds. But essentially, they are completely unchanged from their position that they've held for the last 18 months.
Well, Kristen, thank you for your insights on this story. And I'm sure we'll continue to follow it as we see how it actually plays out in real time. And viewers can follow this and more at thecentersquare.com/Pennsylvania.